Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hump Day edition of The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
No, my name is Mike Pewarski. I am coming to you live from the East Coast, the coast with the most, because I am the co-host with the most here on The Rundown, where we do 2A conservative views and news here for you.
Here for you folks. And by the way, just in case you guys are wondering, yes, today is the special day. As I noted earlier, it is Hump Day.
Hump Day.
Uh-oh. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Uh-oh. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
It's Hump Day.
Hump Day.
Oh, that one gets me every single time.
Love my Hump Day. Love my Hump Day.
Hump Day is the day, you know?
It is. So how is your day going, Craig?
You know, the day is going phenomenal. It's a busy day. Tuesdays are usually my crazy busy day, and so it's slightly lighter on Wednesday, so that's why it feels like I am like in the home stretch for the weekend.
It's good to hear. It's good to hear. I am doing some weird food recovery thing. Like, listen, everybody knows we just got back from SHOT Show, and that takes a day or two's worth of sleep to catch up on.
Right.
Well, that's done. But I got like this weird, it's not quite food poisoning, but it's enough to make me think: is that malaria? Why do I have malaria? You know, why am I
Why
cold?
do I have malaria?
Look, I've even got my whoopee here with me in case it gets too cold. I gotta put it on. But I'll tell you, it's weird when I get like this, and this is not often. I don't get sick. I wouldn't even call this sick. This is a reaction to a bad piece of food somewhere along the line in the past 3-4 days.
Well, we all know that there
not
is
the tacos, by the way. I had this before the tacos.
This was before the tacos. Okay.
This is before the tacos.
There is this one general disease out there that we refer to known as SHOT Show crud that includes a lot of stuff. So a lot of people actually return from SHOT Show not feeling well. It's kind of funny because I remember 2 years ago, I think a lot of people returned from SHOT with the thinking they had the SHOT Show crud, and it included a little bit of the vid in there as well.
They had the Rona. They had
that Rona. But
so listen, I know this is I've had before, and I've had a little bit of food poisoning before in my life. I've had a bad one. I've had a couple of minor ones. That's what you get when you travel. You never know what you're getting. And my body's pretty good about flushing that stuff out. It's just part of flushing it out is you get to feel like you got malaria for a couple of days,
and that's always fun.
Listen, here's the weird part for me. When I get like that, and then you combine it with that extreme tiredness from SHOT, when I'm sleeping, my body, my brain, it thinks we live in Twitterland. I really believe that I live in Twitterland, that everything's about Twitter, and I must get back to Twitterland. And that not only am I in Twitterland, but that I'm also Keith Hernandez, the baseball player, in Twitterland. And I'm Keith Hernandez with all of his knowledge of baseball, which is pretty much my knowledge of baseball, and our Second Amendment knowledge. And I know that I'm not Keith Hernandez, but I want people to think I'm Keith Hernandez. So I'm always trying to defend that I'm not. But they're like, it's okay, Keith. We agree with you. So
okay, Keith.
But then I don't want real Keith to get mad at me. But he's like, go ahead. I don't really tweet a lot. So it's a weird.
I'm sorry, but this
strange, and I'll be stressing in bed, sleeping about being Keith Hernandez too much on Twitter.
You need therapy, bruh. I'm just saying, you need to get over this stuff, and you need therapy. That just all sounds bad. Just all bad.
There's nothing bad about it. I'm just talking Second Amendment stuff, where people are like, "Way to go! He's got an AR and 11 Gold gloves." It's pretty cool.
Oh, Lord Jesus, help me! Lord Jesus, help me. Okay, let's move on to the news, shall we?
Sure.
Okay. In the news today, there are a number of states that have actually, speaking about recovering, there are a number of states that have actually recovered from the coronavirus shutdowns or the coronavirus economy. Now, mind you, not every state shut down. So that's something that is vitally important for you guys to know. And the interesting thing about this particular stat, about these 4 particular states that actually wound up surviving or have now returned to, and by the way, this is CNN business, so we're We're not talking about some right-wing conservative trying to push red states. But if you notice here, it's talking specifically about in November. You had states like Texas, Arizona, Utah, and Idaho all have fully recovered from the job losses relating to anything relating to COVID-19. Now, mind you that we know that the biggest issue with COVID-19, the biggest thing that caused economic depression was shutdowns, where people shut things down, restaurants had to be shut down, businesses had to be shut down, and people weren't able to go to work, except in places like Texas, Arizona, Utah, and Idaho. And by the way, a few other states, most of them being red. Now, the other interesting thing about it is you look at in comparison. Compare them to the two states that fully shut down the most. These are the states also that, by the way, happen to have the worst employment levels, and that would be California and New York. And you know, Mike, the interesting thing about this is the states that these states, California and New York, in many cases, they still have super high unemployment, but you still have people who can't find people. There's jobs, they just can't find people to fill them.
Yeah, you know, and it's still kind of a dilemma, right? Because you've got these people out there now. Their unemployment has run out. Although in California and New York, it's my understanding it is not, because they have the state has supplemented the federal funding, and some of the federal funding is now back available again. So they continue to fund, although not at the extreme levels that they did when COVID first came out. They continue to fund unemployment. And I guess people are just realizing, listen, I don't mind staying at home for 60, 70% of what I was making before on my butt, you know, especially if it's the COVID out there, because God knows that the COVID is going to kill me if I go outside and don't have a mask on.
Right. So many of them are deciding, you know what, in places like California, which, by the way, is a part of the governor's budget, they're looking to still continue to extend at $300 a week. The money that the feds are no longer paying, the state is now looking to pay. And what they fail to understand is that's like $1,200 a month. Now, you add that on to the $450 a week that people are already getting. You have some people who are earning about $3,000 to $4,000 a month on unemployment. If you make normally $4,000 to $5,000 a month, doesn't it make more sense for you to sit at home or participate in the gig economy and not try to earn a living than it does for you to actually go out and get a job? And that's what's happening. That is exactly what is happening in many, many cases. And in the end, it's working out that they're doing quite well financially. I mean, we got places out here, man, that are hiring people at $20 an hour and can't find people.
Yeah, it's horrible, you know, and they're giving bonuses out and everything, and they're like, why should I work? Why should I bother with the hassle of coming into work, paying for gasoline, transportation, tolls, when I could sit at home and collect the same amount of money? You know, we've done this to ourselves. And whereas we can sit back and say, oh, it's California, it's New York, I don't have to worry about it. Guess what? You know what? That California money is not just California money. California, we know, doesn't have enough money to pay for their own budget. So they always reach back to the feds, ask for more money. Feds give it to them under some other guideline, proposal, tax cut, grant, something else.
Right.
So it ends up coming out of everybody's pocket, even those of us sitting here in sunny Florida.
That's exactly how it went. That's exactly how it winds up working. Well, at least now, you know, folks in Florida and folks in Texas and folks in states that actually didn't shut down or actually are not spending extra money, at least that money's not going to them, right? Not coming from them. Yeah. So Californians are paying for the unemployment, for the additional unemployment in California. Yeah. And eventually Californians are going to say, nah, I'm not cool with that.
Yep. And listen, Florida would be on that list. Florida's been at a great recovery for a very long time.
Right.
Florida would be on that list. The problem is we're affected by the blue states that are restricting travel. You know, you can't leave New York unless you do a 14-day quarantine before and after if you're coming to a state like Florida. So we're not getting any of the travel budget, travel monies that would normally be coming from other states.
Well, and that, you know, that's actually a great point, because it's not just states and cities that are tourist destinations that are suffering from that, but even other countries. I mean, we've seen my wife is originally from Fiji, and their biggest problem is, you know, right now, all of the hotels and everything, there's so many travel restrictions that people who normally would come there are just not coming because of all those restrictions. Well, same thing in Florida. Florida is a destination state, not just for people to move to, but for people to visit. And when you have travel restrictions in the state you're coming from, people are just deciding, I guess I'm not going to be able to go on vacation there.
That's it. Exactly right.
Right. Unless of course you are AOC, then you just go there to Florida and get the vid.
AOC.
All right, moving right along to our next story. Now, I knew that out there were these anti-crime or plainclothes crime units, right? But I never knew that they were referred to as anti-gun, right? That they were referred to as anti-gun units. Well, there are a number of cities, one of which is the city of New York, where the mayor has said he's going to be reinstituting a modified plainclothes anti-gun unit. Now, when they say anti-gun, my first question that pops up in my head is, well, what do you mean by anti-gun? And these are units that are basically, their goal is supposedly supposed to be to reduce gun crimes or gun violence, right? You have a very same thing that's that's the wrong story. You have the very same thing that's occurring here in Portland. In Portland, they're looking to do the same exact thing. Now, this is supposed to be a new, once again, anti-gun police unit. And their goal is to stop crime. But the thing that gets me, Mike, is that if their goal is to reduce gun violence, right, then why are these not anti-drug units? Why are these not anti-gang units? Because if you look at it, something like 85 to 90% of all homicides are actually gang or drug related. One would think that you would call them that instead of anti-gun units, because anti-gun units make it sound like their whole goal is to go out there and confiscate firearms.
Yeah, listen, the anti-crime units in New York were created back during the Rudy Giuliani days, right? And what they are is uniform officers, usually patrolmen, that are working their way up to trying to become detectives. They wear plain clothes, soft clothes, like everyday clothes, and they would be given certain targets, and this would be items that would range from, listen, there's an area over here that's having burglaries, so. Next month I want you to go to work burglaries over here. Or over here, there's a drug problem. Go supplement the narcotics unit over here. Or hey, we perceive a gun problem, a trafficking problem over in this part of town. So go working over there. So they were always the anti-crime units. Now Mayor Adams is calling them the anti-gun unit, which is different. One of the things that's different from before also is the anti-crime units before, they did what was called the stop, talk, and frisk, right? Or stop, interview, and frisk. Now, nationally, that was seen as the stop and frisk, right? And you could go around and you could go over and just violate people's rights by stopping them and frisking them. And we know that that's incorrect under Terry v. Ohio. If you have reasonable suspicion that crime may be afoot, you have the police officer has the duty to talk to somebody and then interview them and give them the opportunity to dispel their fears. If their fears are not dispelled, then they have the opportunity to frisk them. That's where stop, talk, and frisk comes in, not commonly known as the stop and frisk tactic that the news portrays it as. So this is different, though. This is maybe similar in name alone. What Eric Adams is talking about doing, the new mayor there. By the way, it sounds like he's going to be a micromanager in the police department, doesn't it? Like you knew that was going to happen. It does. And what he wants to do is put a checkpoint at every entry into the city and search everybody as they come in and out of the city for firearms.
Right, which is absolutely positively crazy.
Correct.
Number one, so what if you have a concealed carry permit from another part of the state? So then what? Right?
It's illegal in New York City.
Right. The other thing is that you also have to know exactly what all of the firearms laws when it comes to transporting and or ammunition that is allowed and all of that. As you carry your firearm, even if you are attempting to legally transport your firearm into the city, it's going to be almost impossible to know
Correct.
all of those laws.
Correct. Correct. Mind you, there's no way to get from Connecticut, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, through New York City to Long Island. You have to go through New York City to get to Long Island, where it's legal to own those firearms, but now you're stuck on Long Island, Suffolk County, Nassau County, without the ability to ever take your firearm out of there unless you fly out or take a boat.
Right. And we know of a number of instances where individuals have actually gotten in trouble attempting to fly out, thinking that they have their firearms secured or that they're legal, but come to find out that no, maybe there are issues because the state laws are, or like the city laws are so
Sure.
different.
The international airport there in Islip in Ronkonkoma, MacArthur Airport, that is in Suffolk County. It's as long as you have the proper permits and everything, you can fly in and out of there with your firearm. Try and do that out of JFK or LaGuardia, and you're going to jail.
Well, exactly. Even if you do it all right, or you think you've done it all right. And this is, by the way, one of the reasons why so many states have preemption laws, because you don't want to have a patchwork of firearms laws throughout a particular community or throughout a particular state, because you never know if you're in compliance and all of a sudden, because you drove across some arbitrary line, now all of a sudden you are violating the law.
Yep. Absolutely right.
And that's exactly what winds up happening. It's kind of sad. And I think that, this guy, Eric Adams, ran as a law and order mayor. And the problem is he is an example of someone who supports law, quote unquote, law and order, but takes protecting the people to mean that I can violate their rights in order to protect them.
Yeah, listen, and that's what I understand is the rights part of this. And I don't think he does. If you own the Empire State Building there, and you decide I'm not letting anybody into the Empire State Building as the owner with a firearm, and I'm going to set up a checkpoint at every entrance, whether it's the tunnels or the doorways, to let people into my building with a firearm. Well, I could do that, unless of course those people happen to live in there, then they have additional rights. But let's just say that they're all employees of the Empire State Building. That get checked at the door. Well, you could do that because it's a private building, right? And as the owner, I could say, I don't want that in here. Right. However, as the mayor of New York, it's not your private domain. You can't say, I'm suspending the Bill of Rights at the entry points into New York City. I'm suspending due process. I'm suspending the Fourth Amendment. I'm suspending the Second Amendment at the borders to New York City. And I'm just going to start violating rights, what do you say, February 1st? I think it was. Yep.
Yeah. And once again, and folks, that's why I think it's important that we communicate even to people that tend to agree with us, that we make sure that when we talk with people who, once again, law and order folks who agree with us on 99.9% of things and believe they're actually pro Second Amendment, we need to make sure they understand that you, in the name of law and order, you don't get to violate people's rights.
Absolutely.
That is not included.
Yep.
Anyway, moving right along. Now, for those of you who live in the state of California or have ever been to LA or been to LA lately, you know that all over Los Angeles County, it is a hot mess. In fact, California, which has a huge percentage, the largest percentage of the country's homeless population. Well, the area in California that has the most of those homeless folks is Southern California, specifically Los Angeles. And no matter where you go in Los Angeles, there are homeless encampments. And for those of you who may or may not know, there's an event that's coming up in a few weeks there, and it's called the Super Bowl. And what is occurring there in Los Angeles is it's an attempt to cover up what is going on in Los Angeles. It's an attempt to cover up all of the homelessness there in LA. They are actually moving out all of the homeless folks. They're basically attempting to hide them so that the people who are visiting there will not notice that, oh yeah, there's there's also a bunch of homeless people there. Plus, oh, by the way, there's a mask requirement. Everywhere in Los Angeles County, every time you're indoor anywhere, you have to be wearing a mask. Well, they're wondering exactly how that is going to affect turnout for the Super Bowl. Now, mind you, see, what got me about this, Mike, was when you think about what's going on, for example, there's another event that's coming up in China. Oh, is that because we're talking about LA?
We're talking about Los Angeles. I thought I had to wear a mask. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. We're talking about LA, so you thought you had to put on a mask.
Yeah.
But I thought of another place that is being run by a bunch of socialist communists, and that would be China. And the big sporting event that's coming up there, which is called the Olympics, and how they are basically covering up the crises of, oh, I don't know, slavery and coronavirus that's taken place there in their country. And it just seemed eerily, I don't know, it just seemed eerily similar to me.
Is it in China? Are the Winter Olympics in China this year?
The Winter Olympics are in China.
Huh, didn't know that. That's how much I'm paying attention to it right now. I do know they start February 3rd. I saw that for some reason. That sticks in my brain. I don't know. Maybe Keith Hernandez told me that. I don't know. Let's see. We've got Los Angeles County. Listen now, Craig. I've seen this. I don't know if you've seen this before. I've been to Jacksonville, Florida, Miami, Florida, Tampa, Florida when they've hosted football games. When they've hosted the Super Bowl and Super Bowl week. Remember, it's not just a game. It's the whole 2 weeks leading up to it, with the final celebration being Super Bowl week itself. And they do, I would say, with precise German efficiency, they run the homeless out of town. That's they put them on the trains and get rid of them. And it's amazing how they can deal with that problem for that week and a half, 2 weeks. Well, they deal with that problem week and a half, 2 weeks by making it somebody else's problem. Here's your one-way ticket to Sheboygan. Go. And then they send them. It's worse in California, because your California homeless people right now is doubled up because it's winter up in Seattle. And guess where the Seattle homeless go, Craig, when it's winter time?
I'm going to guess Los Angeles.
Southern California, baby.
SoCal.
Your homeless people over on the West Coast, they are migratory. They go from South California, Southern California up to Seattle and the Portland area, and then they flee when the cold weather comes. But this is not unusual. Does that make it right? Absolutely not. It's amazing how we can talk about homeless, yet when the TV cameras show up, we got vans and buses full of them, and we're pushing them outside of town, with no problem. And then, by the way, what they'll do, Craig, they'll push them 10, 20 miles outside of town, outside of all the hotels, outside of visibility for everywhere, let them set up a homeless camp, and then not enforce any laws there for the next month or so, because they want them to stay there and feel secure.
Right. Well, in the end, it's funny because they go from state to state, and they generally tend to stay in states or wind up in states where they are provided incentives to be homeless, right? And I can't really think of it of a different way. And anybody I know who's dealt with, because first of all, let's be clear, this is a mental health and drug addiction issue, mostly drug addiction. And the one thing that I've learned from people who've dealt with drug addiction, people who I know close to me, they said the worst thing that you can do is give them stuff, because it just it enables them to continue to do what they're doing. They have to, I hate to say this, and it sounds kind of cold, but sometimes they have to hit complete and utter rock bottom before they can finally start to look up and see that they need some help, and to actually start to look to get help. And the more we do to soften that fall to the bottom, the longer it takes, and the longer they stay addicted to drugs. And then the harder it becomes for them to get off of it and to not be homeless.
It's the reason we don't feed bears at the park, right, Craig?
Right.
The same reason. And listen, there, in addition to the normal homeless problem, not that homeless is normal, although we're treating it like homelessness is normal. The veteran homeless problem is not so much around the mental health and the drug, or if it is, it's just different causes, different issues, and for the most part, there's not a lot of the mental health issues. And if there is the alcohol or drug abuse, it's an escape, because that's what the homeless veterans want. They just want you to leave them alone. Just leave me alone. Just want to be alone. Just don't want anybody to bother me. I don't want to deal with the world's problems anymore. I've done that. I don't want to deal with it anymore.
Right. And the actual percentage of the homeless who are homeless because they can't afford a place, just because they can't afford a place, is actually a small minority of those who are actually out there, who are homeless. I just, once again, I will continue to stand by that. I think we need to deal with this once again as a first, a drug addiction issue. Secondly, a mental health issue. And I think right now, especially in places like California, we're providing a ton of resources for people to be able to get a place to live. Right now, we need to focus on trying to get people to want to have a place to live, develop a lifestyle where they can sustain it.
Right. if I enjoy doing illegal narcotics, no matter how good a housing opportunity you give me, it doesn't matter because I'm just going to go in there and get thrown out and lose it. So
Right.
I'd rather just stay right here in my cardboard tent city and get high every day and chill here in the sun.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, moving right along. Hey, your good friend Jen Psaki is in the news, and she is talking about. She's talking about whatchamacallit? She's talking about what am I looking for? Oh, she's talking about crime, right? She's talking about. She was asked a question by Ducey from Fox News, and she was asked. Basically, the initial question that was asked was, is the president aware that people don't feel safe? And then Jen Psaki brings up, well, that there's been a surge in crime. And he's like, well, what do you think they attribute that crime to? Right? And the first thing she said was, well, there's been a surge in gun violence. As if gun violence was the cause, right? She said that was a cause of the surge in crime. No, that's a part of the crime. That's not the cause. People shooting people. That's the actual crime. That's the effect. But then she also mentioned that a number of police folks are actually, they are underfunded. Let me see specifically what it was. Specifically, her quote was, well, Peter, I think if we look at the facts here, we have to see the surge in crime over the last 2 years. Would you agree with that? So what are you attributing the rise in crime to then? Well, I think we should be responsible in how we are reporting to the public what roles are and what reasons for the surge in crime. Gun violence is a huge reason for the surge in crime. That's not a reason, that's the crime. Underfunding of some police departments and their need for additional resources, something the president has advocated for consistently throughout the course of his career. That's something we need to take action on. So in other words, she admitted that there's a huge increase in crime because many cities and counties, municipalities have decided that they're going to defund the police.
It's a causality loop, right? Right. It's the whole chicken and the egg. We have increased crime because we defunded the police, and we defunded the police because we had an increase in crime because we thought that the police were the ones, instigating, right? They were the ones causing, by being there and not helping the way we wanted them to help by being social workers and handholders. So we defunded them, and then crime went up, and now the crime's got up. We don't have enough police to take care of the crime problem. So it's on them. It's on their own. Don't care. Keep it in your city. That's all we'll say. Keep it in your city. Enjoy it. I'm going to stay out of your city. Not going to come view it at all. Meanwhile, Jen, come on. I'm waiting for that phone call.
Okay.
Come on.
Okay. Let me just so you know. There we go. So every time we talk about Jen Psaki, he gets his obligatory. We'll call it the Ginger Sisters.
I'm just saying she looks like she's Jen. She's an attractive redhead there, So
there you go. Moving right along. John Cleese. Now, you guys might remember John Cleese from Monty Python. He is probably one of my favorite character actors, a comedian. And he actually came out recently to really speak to the effect. No, he didn't come out. He started speaking about, well, I guess you could call it that, because he came out against many in the left, talking about the effects of wokeness on comedy. And here are some of his comments.
I'm offended every day. For example, the British newspapers every day offend me with their laziness, their nastiness, and their inaccuracy. But I'm not going to expect someone to stop that happening. I should just simply speak out about it. Sometimes when people are offended, they want somebody to just come in and say, right, stop that, to whoever is offending them. And of course, as a former chairman of the BBC once said, there are some people one would wish to offend. And I think there's truth in that too. So the idea that you have to be protected from any kind of uncomfortable emotion is one I absolutely do not subscribe to. And a fellow that I helped write two books about psychology and psychiatry, he was a renowned psychiatrist in London called Robin Skinner, said something very interesting to me. He said, If people can't control their own emotions, then they have to start trying to control other people's behavior. And when you're around super sensitive people, you cannot relax and be spontaneous because you no idea what's going to upset them next. And that's why I've been warned recently, don't go to most university campuses, because the political correctness has been taken from being a good idea, which is let's not be mean, particularly to people who are not able to look after themselves very well. That's a good idea, to the point where any kind of criticism of any individual or group can be labeled cruel. And the whole point about humor, the whole point about comedy, and believe you me, I've thought about this, is that all comedy is critical. Even if you make a very inclusive joke, like, how'd you make God laugh? Answer, tell him your plans. Now, that's about the human condition. It's not excluding anyone. It's saying we all have all these plans which probably won't come, and isn't it funny how we still believe they're going to happen? So that's a very inclusive joke. It's still critical. All humor is critical. And if you start saying, oh, we mustn't criticize or offend them, then humor's gone. With humor goes a sense of proportion. And then as far as I'm concerned, you're living in 1984.
All right, now, Mike, I know that's a little longer than we normally go on those videos, but I just thought so much of what he had to say was so spot on that the message deserved a full reading.
Yeah, it did. Very insightful. I guess when you get to be 81 years old, you get to tell people what you think, and you don't have to worry about feeling the repercussions of it. He was right on with what he said, obviously. And then Craig, very importantly, don't forget he is. I think he may still have affiliation there. He is a former government official in the UK.
Is that right? I did not know that. Well, yes, by the way,
he was with the ministry. He was with the Ministry of Funny Walks.
Ministry of Funny Walks. Well, what's interesting is that now he is under major attack by the woke left, and he's actually fighting back. And he noted here, he basically said, look, he hopes that they fry in their own sanctimonious and narcissistic posturing. I like that. What I like about that is because in the little speech that he just gave in the video, he was very concise, very wise, very kind of, stern. And there you kind of really got the real flavor of his comedy right there.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
I love him. I love his
John
comedy,
Cleese.
and I can appreciate what he had to say.
Yeah. Thank you, John Cleese, for speaking your mind.
Yes, we very much appreciate that. You get 2 gold stars. All right, now we're going to move on to our parting shot. As you all know, there is a thing that is going on right now. There is a major international, I don't know, what do we want to call it? International potential crisis with Russia posturing as though they are going to invade the Ukraine. And luckily, finally, our president has stood up and made it very clear what the administration's position is should Russia invade. President Biden warned Russia that if they invade the Ukraine, America will evacuate haphazardly and leave approximately $86 billion in weapons behind, because that is what we are experienced in doing.
Yeah, take that, huh? Let's see you drive down the street with all our vehicles, helicopters, airplanes, and weapons in the way, huh? How are you going to do that?
Well, that's what that's the reason why right now we're planning on sending so much stuff over there. I mean, right now, there's not a huge talk about troops. There is some talk about sending troops, but that's why they're talking about sending all of these surface-to-air missiles and all of this weaponry over there so that we can actually, have some stuff to give to the Russians, as what should we say, visiting gifts? What do we want to call it?
There you go, some parting gifts. Yeah, there you go.
There's parting gifts.
There you go. Here's a year's supply of weaponry. Here you go.
You know what? It's only right. We did it for the Taliban. We should do it for the Russians.
That's right. Exactly right. It's good to have our old enemies back again.
It's good to have our old enemies back, and and to make sure that we properly take good care of them.
That's right. We get back to real enemies like kill a commie for mommy and that kind of stuff again. So
Exactly. Hey, Mikey, before we head out, how about a quick shout out to our sponsors?
let's say hey to our good friends at Guerrilla Machining, Grid Defense, and of course the good people of the California Republican Assembly.
Yes, folks, please, the links to their websites, to their information is in the description of this video. Please visit them. Please let them know that the folks here at The Rundown sent you. And before we leave, I want to make sure to thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. If you haven't already done all three of those, please make sure you do that. And also, if you want to listen to us, you can find us wherever you find podcasts, whether it's Apple, Spotify, iTunes, or I don't know why I always keep forgetting the last one.
Stitcher.
Huh? Yes, you can
Stitcher.
find us. I think you can find us on Stitcher or anyway, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find us. Listen to us. Once again, subscribe and encourage your friends to do the same. With that, we are going to be out. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please remember, once again, like, share, and subscribe, and encourage your friends to do the same. Holla!
Hello.